The cold wind cut through the streets of downtown San Francisco as the sun began to set. Most people hurried past, pulling their coats tight, eager to get home. But Minho Park had no home to rush to. He sat on a piece of cardboard near the glass wall of a tall office building, a thin blanket wrapped around his shoulders. Minho was 45 years old, though the street had aged him beyond his years. His hair was messy and gray in places. His clothes were worn and dirty. His hands were rough from 3 years of sleeping on concrete. But his eyes still held something that the street had not taken away. When he looked at things, he really saw them. He noticed patterns. He understood numbers the way other people understood words. 3 years ago, Minho had been a different man. He had been a mathematics professor at UC Berkeley. He had a wife named Soo-Jin, a small apartment filled with books, and a career he loved. Then Soo-Jin got sick. The cancer came fast and mean. The doctors tried everything, but nothing worked. Minho spent every dollar he had on treatments that did not save her. When she died, something in him died too. He stopped going to work. He stopped answering his phone. The bills piled up until he lost the apartment. One day he found himself on the street with nothing but a backpack and the clothes he wore. That was 3 years ago. Now the street was all he knew. But Minho still had one thing from his old life. In his jacket pocket he carried a small piece of white chalk. He did not know why he kept it. Maybe it reminded him of the chalkboards where he used to teach. Maybe it reminded him that he was once someone who mattered. During the day, Minho went to the public library. It was warm there and nobody bothered him if he stayed quiet. He read mathematics books and journals. His mind needed the numbers like his body needed food. At night, he came back to this spot near the big glass building. The security guard, Officer Rodriguez, knew him. Rodriguez sometimes brought him coffee and never told him to leave. Tonight was colder than usual. Minho pulled his blanket tighter and watched people walk by. Nobody looked at him. To them, he was invisible. Just another homeless person on another street corner. Then he saw someone stop in front of the glass wall across from where he sat. The man wore an expensive suit and carried a leather bag. He pulled out a marker and started writing on the glass. Minho sat up straighter. The man was writing equations. Mathematical equations, complex ones. Minho watched carefully. The man wrote quickly, his marker making squeaking sounds against the glass. He covered a large section of the wall with numbers and symbols. These were not simple equations. This was quantum mechanics, advanced theoretical work. Minho recognized it immediately. The man in the suit was Jiwon Chen. Minho did not know this yet, but Jiwon was one of the richest people in San Francisco. He owned a quantum computing company called Quantum Edge. The company was trying to build computers that could solve problems regular computers never could. But they were stuck. For months, Jiwon had been working on one problem that he could not solve. Tonight, Jiwon had stayed late at the office again. His head hurt from staring at computer screens. He decided to walk and think. Sometimes writing things out helped him see problems differently, so he stopped and wrote his equations on the glass wall outside his building. He had done this before. Nobody seemed to mind. But tonight the equations still made no sense. Jiwon stared at them for 10 minutes. He rubbed his eyes. He tried different approaches in his head. Nothing worked. Finally, he capped his marker and walked away, frustrated and tired. Minho waited until Jiwon was gone. Then he stood up, his knees cracking from sitting so long in the cold. He walked slowly across the street to the glass wall. He stood in front of the equations and studied them carefully. His heart beat faster. He knew this problem. He had worked on similar problems years ago when he was teaching. He could see where the error was. The approach was good, but there was a mistake in the third line. And if you fixed that mistake, you had to change the next 4 lines too. Minho looked around. The street was quiet. Officer Rodriguez was inside the building, probably making his rounds. Minho reached into his pocket and pulled out his piece of chalk. His hands shook a little, not from the cold but from something else. Excitement, maybe. Or fear. He had not done mathematics in 3 years. Not real mathematics. Just reading in the library. But this was different. This was creation. This was solving. Minho touched the chalk to the glass. It felt right in his hand, like greeting an old friend. He started writing. First, he corrected the error in the third line. Then he added new lines below the original equations. His handwriting was shaky at first, but it got steadier as he worked. The chalk scratched against the glass, white against the black marker. He worked for 15 minutes, lost in the numbers. He forgot about the cold. He forgot about his empty stomach. He forgot about the blanket he left across the street. There was only the problem and the solution flowing from his mind through the chalk onto the glass. When he finished, he stepped back and looked at what he had written. It was correct. He was sure of it. The solution was elegant and simple once you saw it the right way. Minho felt something he had not felt in 3 years. Pride. Purpose. Then reality came back. He looked down at himself, at his dirty clothes and worn shoes. What was he doing? He had just written on someone's building. The security guard might call the police. He could get in trouble. Minho quickly put the chalk back in his pocket and hurried across the street to his cardboard spot. He sat down and pulled the blanket over himself, trying to look invisible again. His heart was pounding. Officer Rodriguez came out of the building a few minutes later. He saw the new chalk writing on the glass. He looked at Minho. Minho looked down, waiting for trouble, but Rodriguez just shook his head and smiled a little. He had seen stranger things on this job. At least it was mathematics, not graffiti. He went back inside without saying anything. Minho did not sleep that night. He kept thinking about the equations, about how good it felt to solve something again, about how much he missed using his mind for what it was meant to do. An hour later, Jiwon came back. He had gone to get coffee from an all-night cafe. He was still thinking about the problem, unable to let it go. As he walked toward the building entrance, he glanced at the glass wall where he had written his equations. Then he stopped walking. He stepped closer to the glass. There was new writing there. White chalk writing beneath his black marker. He read it once, then again, then a third time. His coffee cup fell from his hand and hit the sidewalk. Hot liquid splashed across his expensive shoes, but he did not notice. He was staring at the glass wall with his mouth open. The chalk writing had solved his problem. Someone had corrected his error and shown him the path forward. The solution was brilliant. Whoever wrote this understood quantum mechanics at the highest level. This was not the work of a student or an amateur. This was the work of an expert. Jiwon's hands were shaking as he pulled out his phone and took pictures of the writing. Then he looked around the empty street. Who had done this? Who could have done this? He ran to the building entrance and pushed through the door. Officer Rodriguez was at his desk, drinking coffee and reading on his phone. Rodriguez! Jiwon's voice was loud and excited. The writing on the glass. The chalk writing. Who did that? Did you see who did it? Rodriguez looked up, surprised to see his boss so worked up. The writing? Oh, that was just the homeless guy across the street, Minho. He's harmless, Mr. Chen. I can clean it off if you want. No, Jiwon almost shouted. Don't clean it. Which homeless guy? Where? Rodriguez pointed through the glass door. That guy. With the blanket. He sits there most nights. Jiwon looked where Rodriguez was pointing. Across the street, barely visible in the darkness, was a man wrapped in a thin blanket sitting on cardboard. Jiwon had probably walked past him 1,000 times and never really seen him. He walked slowly out of the building and across the street. His heart was beating fast. This made no sense. A homeless man had just solved a problem that had stumped him and his entire team of experts for months. Minho saw the man in the suit coming toward him. He recognized him from earlier. This was the man who had written the original equations. Minho's stomach tightened with fear. He was going to be angry about the chalk. Maybe he would call the police. I'm sorry, Minho said quickly when Jiwon got close. I should not have written on your building. I can try to clean it off. Jiwon stared at him. Up close, he could see the man's worn face, his tired eyes, his dirty clothes. But he could also see something else. Intelligence. Depth. This was not what he expected. You wrote those equations, Jiwon said. It was not a question. Minho nodded, looking down. Yes, I'm sorry. I just saw the problem and I thought I could help, but I should not have touched your work. Where did you study mathematics? Jiwon asked. Minho looked up, surprised by the question. Seoul National University. Then UC Berkeley. I used to teach there. Jiwon felt like the world had tilted sideways. You have a PhD in mathematics and you're living on the street? Life happens, Minho said quietly. Things fall apart sometimes. Jiwon sat down on the cold sidewalk next to Minho. His expensive suit would be ruined, but he did not care. Tell me your name. Minho Park. Minho, I'm Ji-won Chen, that's my company. He pointed at the building. What you wrote on that wall just solved a problem worth billions of dollars. Do you understand what I'm saying? Minho said nothing. He did not know what to say. I need to ask you something, Ji-won continued, and I need you to be completely honest. Did you really just solve that problem in your head, right now? Or did you know the solution from before? I solved it tonight, Minho said. I saw your work. I saw where the error was. The rest followed from fixing that error. Ji-won was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, can you do it again? Can you solve another problem? Maybe, I don't know. I have not done real mathematics in 3 years. Ji-won pulled out his phone. He opened a file and showed Minho a screen full of equations. What about this one? Minho looked at the phone. He studied the problem. Ji-won watched his eyes move across the screen, seeing the exact moment when understanding clicked into place. You need to change your approach, Minho said after 2 minutes. You're thinking about it as a linear problem, but it's not. It's cyclical. If you treat it as a loop instead of a line, the math becomes much simpler. He took the phone from Ji-won's hand. His fingers were dirty, but Ji-won did not pull the phone away. Minho typed quickly, adding notes to the file. See, like this, and then this. The pattern repeats here, which means you can reduce all of this down to a much smaller equation. Ji-won read what Minho had written. It was correct. It was more than correct. It was elegant. This homeless man had just solved in minutes what his team had been working on for weeks. Minho, Ji-won said carefully, I know this is going to sound strange, but I need someone like you. My company needs someone like you. Would you come work for me? Minho laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who has stopped believing in good things. Look at me. I live on the street. I have not showered in a week. No one would hire me. I would, Ji-won said. I am, right now. I'm hiring you, you don't understand. I have nothing. No address, no phone, no clean clothes. I'm nobody. You're not nobody, Ji-won said firmly. You're a mathematician. A brilliant one. Everything else we can fix, but I can't fix not having someone with your mind working on my team. Minho wanted to believe him, but hope was dangerous. Hope hurt when it was taken away. Why would you do this for a stranger? Because a year ago I was about to give up, Ji-won said honestly. This company, these problems, all of it was crushing me. I was losing my love for the work. Then tonight I wrote those equations and walked away ready to quit. When I came back and saw what you had written, I remembered why I started doing this. You gave that back to me. Let me give you something back. Minho's eyes filled with tears. He looked away, embarrassed. I don't know if I can do this. It's been so long. We'll find out together, Ji-won said. He stood up and held out his hand. Come with me. Tonight you'll stay in a hotel. Tomorrow we'll talk about everything else. One step at a time. What do you say? Minho looked at the offered hand. He looked at his cardboard spot and his thin blanket. He looked at the glass wall where his chalk writing was still visible. Then he looked back at Ji-won. Slowly, he reached out and took the hand. Ji-won pulled him to his feet. Minho was shaky and weak from cold and hunger, but he was standing. Okay, Minho whispered. Okay, I'll try. They walked together toward Ji-won's car. Officer Rodriguez watched through the building window and smiled. He did not know what had just happened, but he knew he had witnessed something important. Behind them, the chalk equations glowed white against the dark glass, a bridge between one life and another. The hotel room was too bright, too clean, too quiet. Minho stood in the doorway and stared at the bed with its white sheets and soft pillows. He had not seen a bed like this in 3 years. He had almost forgotten beds like this existed. Go ahead, Ji-won said gently behind him. It's yours for the night. Maybe longer if you need it. Minho took a small step inside. The carpet was soft under his worn shoes. Everything in the room looked expensive and new. He felt dirty just being there. I'll make everything filthy. That's what cleaning services are for, Ji-won said. He put a shopping bag on the table. I stopped at a store on the way. There are clothes in there, basic stuff, and some toiletries. Take a shower. Get some rest. I'll come back tomorrow morning at 9. We'll talk then. Ji-won pulled out his wallet and took out several bills. He put them on the table. For food, order room service, get whatever you want. Don't worry about the cost. Minho stared at the money. It was more than he usually saw in a month of asking people for spare change. I can't take all this. Yes, you can. You need it. Jiwon moved toward the door. Minho, I know this is overwhelming. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. But please, give this a chance. Give yourself a chance. Can you do that? Minho nodded slowly. He did not trust his voice. Good. I'll see you tomorrow. Jiwon left, closing the door softly behind him. Minho stood alone in the hotel room. He could hear the heating system humming quietly. Through the window, he could see the city lights spreading out below. He was on the 12th floor, higher than he had been in years. He walked to the bathroom and turned on the light. The mirror showed him someone he barely recognized. His face was gaunt and lined. His hair was long and tangled. His beard was uneven and gray. He looked like he had aged 20 years. Minho turned on the shower. Hot water poured out immediately. He watched the steam rise. On the street, he washed in public bathrooms with cold water and paper towels. A hot shower was a luxury he had almost forgotten. He took off his clothes and stepped under the water. It was almost too hot, but he did not adjust it. He wanted to feel it. The water turned gray and brown as 3 years of street dirt washed away. He scrubbed his skin until it turned pink. He washed his hair 3 times. He stayed in the shower for over an hour. The hot water never ran out. He watched the dirt spiral down the drain and imagined his old life washing away too. But he did not know if that was good or bad. When he finally stepped out, his skin was wrinkled from the water. He dried himself with a towel that was softer than anything he had touched in years. In the shopping bag, he found new clothes. Simple things, jeans, a shirt, underwear, socks, everything was in his size. Jiwon must have guessed. Minho put on the clean clothes. They smelled like the store, not like the street. He looked in the mirror again. He looked a little more human now. A little less lost, he ordered food from room service. When it came, he stared at it for a long time before eating. Real food on real plates. A burger, fries, a salad. He ate slowly, his stomach not used to so much food at once. Everything tasted almost too good. After eating, he sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress was soft, too soft. He lay down and stared at the ceiling. The sheets smelled clean. The pillow was perfect, but he could not sleep. He was too used to the hard ground and the noise of the street. The silence of the hotel room felt wrong. He thought about Soo-jin. She would have been happy to see him in a place like this. She would have told him he deserved good things. But Soo-jin was gone. She had been gone for so long that sometimes he had trouble remembering her voice. Minho got up and sat in the chair by the window. He watched the city until the sun started to rise. He did not sleep at all that first night. He was too afraid this was a dream, and he would wake up back on the street. At exactly 9 o'clock in the morning, someone knocked on the door. Minho opened it to find Jiwon standing there with coffee and a smile. "You're still here," Jiwon said. "Good, I wasn't sure you would be." "I almost left twice," Minho admitted. "But you didn't. That's what matters." Jiwon handed him a coffee. "Are you ready to visit the company?" Minho's stomach tightened with nervousness. "I don't know if I can do this. It's been so long since I was around people. Professional people. I don't remember how to act. Just be yourself, be honest. That's all anyone can ask." Jiwon studied his face. "You didn't sleep, did you?" "No. The bed was too comfortable?" "Yes." Jiwon laughed, but it was not a mean laugh. It was understanding. "It takes time to adjust." "Don't worry. Everything takes time." They drove to the Quantum Edge building. Minho recognized it from the outside. This was where he had lived on the street for months. But he had never been inside. The building was tall and modern with lots of glass and steel. They went up to the 15th floor. The elevator made Minho's stomach feel strange. The office was huge and open with people working at computers. Everyone looked young and smart and confident. Minho felt very old and very out of place. "This is our main research lab," Jiwon said, leading him through the space. Some people looked up and stared. Minho could see them wondering who he was. He wanted to disappear. They entered a conference room with a long table and a big whiteboard on the wall. Several people were already there waiting. Jiwon introduced them. "This is Dr. Sarah Martinez, head of our research team, and these are our lead scientists." Dr. Martinez was a woman in her 40s with short dark hair and sharp eyes. She shook Minho's hand firmly. "Jiwon told us about you. About what you did with the equations last night." "What do you mean?" Dr. Martinez asked. Minho went to the whiteboard. We keep trying to hold the qubits in one state. We fight against the natural drift. But what if instead we worked with the drift? What if we designed the system to use the movement instead of preventing it? He started writing equations. The team watched as he developed a new approach. Instead of fighting against quantum uncertainty, his method embraced it. He created a mathematical framework that could predict and use the natural fluctuations of qubits. This is brilliant, Jamin said, leaning forward to study the board. Why didn't we think of this? Because you were too close to the problem, Minho said. Sometimes you need distance to see clearly. Over the next weeks, the team worked to test Minho's theory. They ran simulations. They built models. They tested hardware. Slowly, the results started coming in. Minho's approach was working. The quantum state stayed stable 3 times longer than with their old methods. 3 times longer meant 3 times more processing power. It meant problems that used to take hours could be solved in minutes. It meant Quantum Edge was ahead of every competitor in the field. Jiwan was thrilled. Minho, do you understand what you've done? This is going to change everything. We need to write this up, publish papers, file patents. But success brought new challenges for Minho. As word spread through the company about his breakthrough, more people wanted to meet him. They wanted to know where he came from, what his background was, why they had never heard of him before. Minho tried to avoid these questions. He gave vague answers. He changed the subject. But people were curious. Some started asking around, searching online, trying to find information about him. One day, a co-worker named Marcus stopped by his desk. Marcus was younger, maybe 30, with expensive clothes and a confident manner. Hey, Minho, I was trying to find your published papers online. You know, your previous research, but I couldn't find anything. It's like you don't exist before last month. Minho's hands tightened on his keyboard. I haven't published in several years. I took time away from research. Time away? For what? Personal reasons. Marcus smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. That's mysterious. Makes me wonder what you were really doing. After Marcus left, Minho felt cold. He knew this moment would come. People would want to know his story. And when they found out he had been homeless, everything would change. They would see him differently. Question his abilities. Wonder if he was really qualified. That night, Minho could not sleep again. He paced his small apartment. He thought about leaving. Maybe he could go to another city, start over somewhere else where nobody knew. But that was running. And he was tired of running. The next morning, he went to Jiwan's office. We need to talk, he said. Jiwan looked up from his computer. What's wrong? You look worried. People are asking questions. About my background. About where I've been. Minho sat down heavily. They're going to find out. About the street. About everything, so let them find out. You don't understand. When they know, they'll treat me differently. They'll think I don't belong here. Jiwan leaned back in his chair. Minho, you're one of the most talented mathematicians I've ever met. Your work over the last month has been exceptional. That's what matters. Not where you slept a month ago. But people judge. They can't help it. Some people will judge. You're right. But the people worth caring about won't. And if anyone has a problem with your past, they can talk to me. Jiwan's voice was firm. You earned your place here. Remember that. Minho wanted to believe him. But fear was hard to shake off. His fears proved partly right. When word spread about his past, reactions were mixed. Some people were inspired by his story. They saw him as proof that talent could come from anywhere. But others were less kind. He heard whispers in the hallway. Saw people staring. Once he walked into the break room and heard someone say charity case before they saw him and went quiet. The worst was David Thompson, one of the senior scientists. David had been with the company since the beginning. He clearly did not like that Minho had come in and immediately made breakthroughs that the original team had missed. Must be nice, David said one day when they were both working late. Getting handed a job in an apartment without having to interview or prove yourself first. I prove myself every day with my work. Minho said quietly. Sure, but some of us had to earn our positions the normal way. We had to compete. Show credentials. You just had to be in the right place at the right time. Minho felt anger rising in his chest. You think sleeping on concrete was the right place? You think losing everything was lucky timing? I think people should earn what they get, not have it given to them because the boss feels sorry for them. Minho stood up and faced David. I have a PhD from one of the best universities in the world. I taught at Berkeley for 8 years. I published 23 research papers before my life fell apart. I earned everything I had, then I lost it, then I earned it again. So don't tell me about earning things." He left the office before David could respond. His hands were shaking with anger and shame mixed together. But the confrontation did something important. It made Minho realize he could not hide from his past. He could not pretend the 3 years on the street never happened. They were part of him. They had changed him. And maybe that was not entirely bad. The next day at a team meeting, Dr. Martinez announced that Minho's algorithm had passed all major tests. "This is ready for the next phase," she said. "We're going to build a prototype processor using Minho's stability framework. If it works like we think it will, we're looking at a revolution in quantum computing." Everyone clapped. Minho felt pride swell in his chest. This was real. His work mattered. His ideas were becoming reality. After the meeting, Hyewan Lee approached him. She was quiet and rarely spoke up in meetings, but her work was excellent. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said. Minho tensed. "Okay. How did you keep your mind sharp? When you were on the street, I mean. How did you not lose your skills?" It was a real question, not a judgment. Minho relaxed a little. "The library. I went there every day. Read journals. Worked problems in my head. Mathematics was the only thing I had left. I couldn't let it go. That takes incredible discipline. It was survival. If I lost mathematics, I lost everything that made me who I was." Hyewan nodded slowly. "I respect that. A lot of people would have given up. You didn't." "I wanted to give up many times, but something kept me going. Maybe stubbornness. Maybe hope that things would get better someday. And they did. Yes. But I never expected this. I never imagined someone would give me a chance like this." More people started treating him normally after that. Not everyone, but enough. They asked him questions about mathematics, invited him to lunch, included him in conversations. He was becoming part of the team, not just an outsider. But adjustment was still hard. Minho struggled with things that seemed simple to everyone else. Office politics confused him. Small talk felt meaningless after years of only speaking when necessary. Social cues he used to understand were now mysteries. Jiwon noticed and suggested he see a therapist. "You went through trauma," Jiwon said. 3 years on the street changes a person. There's no shame in getting help to process that." Minho resisted at first. He thought he could handle it alone. But the nightmares kept coming. Dreams of being back on the street. Dreams of losing everything again. He would wake up in his apartment not knowing where he was, panicking until he remembered this was real. Finally, he agreed to see someone. Dr. Kim was a therapist who specialized in trauma and major life transitions. She had kind eyes and a calm voice that made Minho feel safe. "Tell me about your wife," Dr. Kim said in their first session. Nobody had asked about Soo-jin in years. Minho felt his throat tighten. "She was everything to me. When she died, I died too. Part of me anyway. You lost your wife, and then your home, and then your career. That's an enormous amount of loss. I should have been stronger. I should have kept going. You survived 3 years on the street. That took incredible strength. But survival and healing are different things." Over weeks and months, Dr. Kim helped Minho understand his trauma. The depression after Soo-jin died. The shame of homelessness. The fear that everything could be taken away again. She taught him techniques to manage the anxiety and panic. "You keep waiting for someone to tell you this is all a mistake," Dr. Kim said one day, "that you don't deserve this job or this apartment. But Minho, you do deserve it. You earned it with your talent and your perseverance. I'm afraid if I believe that, if I relax and feel secure, it will all disappear. That's hypervigilance. It's a normal response to trauma. But it's exhausting to live that way. We need to help you feel safe again." The work was slow. Some days were good. Minho would feel almost normal, laughing with co-workers, solving problems, enjoying his work. Other days were hard. The old feelings would come back. The sense of being an imposter. The fear of failure. But slowly, gradually, Minho started to change. He started to believe he belonged at Quantum Edge. He started to trust that this was not temporary. He started to feel like himself again, or maybe like a new version of himself. Someone who had been broken and put back together, stronger in the broken places. 6 months after he started, The team completed a working prototype of the quantum processor using Minho's stability algorithm. They ran the first tests in a special clean room with everyone watching through a window. The processor powered up. The qubits achieved quantum state, and they stayed stable. 10 minutes, 20, 30, an hour, 2 hours. The state held. "It's working," Jamin whispered. "It's actually working." Dr. Martinez turned to Minho with tears in her eyes. "You did it. You solved the problem we've been fighting for years." Minho watched the readings on the screen. His algorithm was working exactly as predicted. His mathematics was solid. His theories were correct. He felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Not just pride, but something deeper. Purpose, meaning, the sense that his life had value. Ji-won put a hand on his shoulder.
"How does it feel?"
"Like waking up after a long sleep," Minho said quietly. That night, Minho walked back to the spot where he used to sleep. The glass wall was still there. Someone had cleaned off the chalk and marker from months ago. He stood where his cardboard used to be and looked up at the building. 6 months ago, he had been nobody. Invisible. Forgotten. Now he was a senior research consultant helping to build technology that would change the world, all because of a piece of chalk and a moment of courage. He thought about all the other people still sleeping on streets. Still invisible, still forgotten. How many of them had talents the world never saw? How many had stories nobody heard? Minho made a decision that night. When he had saved enough money, when he was truly stable, he would find a way to help others like him. He would remember what it felt like to be invisible, and he would do whatever he could to make sure others did not stay invisible forever. But first, he had to make sure his own foundation was solid. He had to keep proving himself. Keep working. Keep building a life that could not be taken away so easily. He turned away from the glass wall and walked to the bus stop. He was going home, to his apartment, to his bed, to his life. And tomorrow he would go back to work. And the day after that, and the day after that, one step at a time, one day at a time, building something permanent from the pieces of something broken. 9 months after Minho started at Quantum Edge, everything changed again. The company announced their breakthrough in quantum computing stability. They published research papers with Minho's name listed as the lead author. They filed patents for his algorithm, and suddenly, the technology world was paying attention. The announcement made headlines in every major tech publication. Quantum Edge achieves quantum computing breakthrough. New algorithm solves decades-old stability problem. Unknown researcher revolutionizes quantum processing. That last headline made Minho uncomfortable. Unknown researcher. It was technically true, but it felt strange. He had been a professor at Berkeley. He had published research. But those years might as well have not existed. The street had erased his professional history. The day after the announcement, Minho's inbox filled with emails. Universities wanted him to speak at conferences. Research institutions wanted to collaborate. Other tech companies wanted to meet with him. Everyone suddenly wanted to know who Minho Park was and where he had come from. Ji-won called a company-wide meeting. "Today is a huge day for Quantum Edge," he said to the gathered employees. "What we've accomplished will change computing forever. And it's largely thanks to one person's brilliant work. Minho, please stand up." Minho stood reluctantly. Everyone was looking at him, clapping. Some people were smiling. Others looked surprised that this quiet man was responsible for such important work. "Minho joined us 9 months ago," Ji-won continued. "Since then, he's made contributions that most researchers don't make in entire careers. His algorithm is the foundation of our quantum processor. Without his insights, we would still be stuck where we were a year ago." More applause. Minho sat down quickly, his face hot with embarrassment. He did not like being the center of attention. After the meeting, Dr. Martinez pulled him aside. "How are you handling all this attention?" "I don't like it," Minho admitted. "I just want to do the work, I understand. But you need to accept that you're not going to be anonymous anymore. This discovery is too important. People will want to know about you." "That's what I'm afraid of." Dr. Martinez studied his face. "Because of your past? Minho, your story makes the achievement even more remarkable. You could inspire people. Or I could become a curiosity, a story people tell at parties. Look at the homeless man who became a scientist. It's like I'm not a real person, just an interesting anecdote. Is that how you think people see you?" "It's how some people see me," She nodded slowly. You're right. Some people will always focus on where you came from instead of what you've accomplished. But their small thinking doesn't diminish your achievement. Don't let it. That evening, Minho received a call from his old university. The dean of the mathematics department wanted to speak with him. Minho's hands shook as he answered. Professor Park, the dean said. Minho had not heard anyone call him professor in 3 years. I'm calling to congratulate you on your remarkable work. We've been following the news about Quantum Edge's breakthrough. Thank you. We'd like to offer you a position here. Return to teaching. Lead a new research initiative in quantum mathematics. We could really use someone with your expertise. Minho was quiet for a moment. Go back to Berkeley, to the place where his old life ended? I need to think about it. Of course. But Minho, I also want to apologize. When you went through your difficult period, we should have done more to support you. Instead, we let you slip away. That was wrong. It wasn't your fault. I pushed everyone away. Still, we could have tried harder. Some of your former colleagues have asked about you. They'd love to reconnect. After the call, Minho sat in his apartment feeling confused. He had offers coming from everywhere, universities, companies, research labs. A year ago, he had nothing. Now he had too many choices. He called Ji-won. Can we talk? They met at a quiet restaurant. Minho explained the offers he was receiving. The invitations. The opportunities. I don't know what to do, he said. Part of me wants to go back to teaching, but I'm also afraid of leaving what I've built here. What do you want? Ji-won asked. Not what you think you should want. What does your heart say? Minho thought about it. I want to do work that matters. I want to use my mind for good. I want to help people. But I also want stability. I want to know I won't end up on the street again. Those things aren't contradictory. You can have meaningful work and security. Can I? It feels like I have to choose. Ji-won leaned forward.
Minho, you've become invaluable to Quantum Edge.
Your work is the foundation of our future. But I don't want to keep you somewhere you don't want to be. If teaching is your passion, go teach. If research is your passion, stay here. Or find a way to do both. Both? Why not? Some of our senior people teach part-time at universities. You could do the same. Stay with Quantum Edge, but also teach a class or two. Best of both worlds, the idea appealed to Minho. He missed teaching. Missed seeing young minds grasp difficult concepts. But he also loved the work at Quantum Edge. The cutting-edge research. The brilliant team. The sense of building something important. Over the next weeks, Minho negotiated a new arrangement. He would stay at Quantum Edge as a senior research consultant, but also teach one course per semester at Berkeley. The university agreed immediately. They wanted his name on their faculty list. It gave them prestige. His first class was Introduction to Quantum Mathematics. 20 graduate students signed up. When Minho walked into the classroom on the first day, he felt nervous in a way he had not felt in months. This was different from working in a lab. This was standing in front of people and trying to help them learn. My name is Professor Park, he said. His voice was steadier than he expected. This is quantum mathematics. Before we start, I want to tell you something about myself. He told them about his past, about losing his wife, about the depression, about living on the street, about the chalk in the glass wall, about getting a second chance. I'm telling you this for a reason. Minho said, mathematics is pure. It doesn't care about your circumstances or your history. It only cares if you understand. Some of you will struggle in this class. Some of you will fail tests. Some of you will want to quit. But failure isn't permanent unless you let it be. I failed at life for 3 years. Then I got up and tried again. And now I'm here teaching you. Remember that when things get hard, the students were silent. Then one of them, a young woman in the front row, raised her hand. Thank you for sharing that, Professor. It helps to know that even experts struggle sometimes. The class went well. Minho discovered that he was still a good teacher. He could explain complex ideas simply. He could see when students were confused and find different ways to help them understand. He could make mathematics feel accessible instead of intimidating, but not everyone was happy about his success. Back at Quantum Edge, tensions were growing. David Thompson had become more hostile. He made comments in meetings about how some people got ahead through luck instead of merit. He questioned Minho's ideas more aggressively than necessary. One day, David cornered Minho in the hallway. You think you're special because you were homeless? Because you have a sob story? I never said I was special, but that's how everyone treats you. Poor Minho, look how far he's come. It's pathetic. You're using your past to get sympathy and opportunities you don't deserve. Minho felt anger boiling up. I deserve everything I've earned through my work. My past has nothing to do with my abilities. Your past is the only reason anyone cares about you. Without it, you're just another researcher. Average, forgettable. If I'm so average, why is my algorithm powering our entire quantum system? David's face turned red. That was luck. Right place, right time. You saw something the rest of us missed. That doesn't make you a genius. You're right, Minho said calmly. It doesn't make me a genius. It makes me someone who sees patterns others don't. Someone who approaches problems differently. Someone useful to this team. If that bothers you, that's your problem, not mine. He walked away before David could respond. But the confrontation shook him. Was David right? Was he only valued because of his story? Would people care about his work if he had a normal background? That night, Minho called Dr. Kim. I'm doubting myself again, he admitted. What happened? He told her about David, about the accusations, about feeling like a fraud despite his accomplishments. Minho, this is called imposter syndrome, Dr. Kim said. Many successful people feel it. They think they don't deserve their success, that any moment someone will expose them as a fake. But what if it's true? What if I'm not as good as people think? Look at the evidence. Your algorithm works, your research is solid. Multiple institutions want to work with you. Those are facts, not opinions. One person's jealousy doesn't erase objective reality. It feels real, though. The doubt. Feelings aren't facts. You feel like a fraud, but the facts show you're a talented mathematician doing important work. Trust the facts. Minho tried to take her advice. He focused on his work. He published more papers. He helped the team solve new problems. He taught his class and saw students begin to understand complex concepts. Then something unexpected happened. A reporter from a major technology magazine requested an interview. The article was going to be about the future of quantum computing, and they wanted to feature Minho as one of the leading voices in the field. Minho almost said no. He still did not like attention, but Dr. Martinez convinced him. This is part of the job now, she said. Like it or not, you're a public figure in this field. Use that platform to talk about what matters. The interview took place at Quantum Edge. The reporter, a woman named Anna Chen, was professional and well-prepared. She asked thoughtful questions about quantum computing and Minho's algorithm. Then she asked about his past. Your story is remarkable. How did you go from living on the street to revolutionizing quantum computing? Minho thought carefully before answering. I don't think of it as going from one place to another. I was always a mathematician. The circumstances changed, but the core of who I am didn't. The street didn't take away my ability to think. It just took away the opportunity to use that ability. When the opportunity came back, I was ready. Do you think your experience gives you a different perspective on your work? Yes. When you've had nothing, when you've been invisible, you see value differently. I see the value in ideas that might be overlooked. I see potential where others might see only problems. Maybe that comes from having been overlooked myself. What would you say to someone who's struggling right now? Someone who feels like they've lost everything? Minho was quiet for a long moment. I would say that your current circumstances don't define your future. I would say that talent and ability can survive almost anything. I would say that one moment, one decision, one chance can change everything. But you have to be ready. You have to keep your skills sharp and your mind active. Because when the opportunity comes, you need to be able to grab it. The article came out 2 weeks later. It was fair and thoughtful. Anna had captured both the technical details of his work and the human story behind it. The response was overwhelming. Minho's inbox filled with messages. Some were from other researchers wanting to collaborate. Some were from homeless individuals thanking him for giving them hope. Some were from people sharing their own stories of loss and recovery. One message stood out. It was from a former colleague at Berkeley, someone Minho had not heard from in 4 years. Minho, I'm sorry. When you were going through your difficult time, I didn't reach out. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. That was wrong. I'm proud of what you've accomplished. And I'm sorry I wasn't there when you needed friends. Minho read the message several times. He thought about all the people who had disappeared from his life when he fell. Some had abandoned him. Others had just not known how to help. Either way, he had been alone, but he was not alone anymore. He had G1 who had given him a chance. He had Dr. Martinez and the team at Quantum Edge. He had his students at Berkeley. He had Dr. Kim helping him heal. He had built a new life with new connections. He replied to his former colleague, "Thank you for reaching out. The past is the past. I'm focused on moving forward now." That night, Min-ho stood in his apartment and looked at how far he had come. 9 months ago, he had nothing. Now he had a career, a home, respect, recognition. He had proven that he could rebuild, but something was still missing. He had survived. He had succeeded, but he had not yet found a way to give back, to help others who were where he used to be. That night, Min-ho started planning. He did not know exactly what form it would take yet, but he knew he wanted to create something that would help people get second chances the way he had. He thought about Soo-jin. She had always believed in helping others, in using your talents to make the world better. She would have been proud of what he had accomplished, but she would have pushed him to do more. "I will," Min-ho whispered to the empty apartment. "I promise I will." The next morning, Min-ho went to work with new purpose. He would continue his research, continue his teaching, continue building his career, but he would also start working toward something bigger, something that honored the people who never got the chances he got, something that said everyone deserves to be seen. 1 year after joining Quantum Edge, Min-ho had settled into a comfortable rhythm. He worked on quantum computing projects during the week. He taught at Berkeley on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. He saw Dr. Kim every other week. He had friends now, a routine, a life that felt solid and real. Then Marcus Webb entered the picture. Marcus was the CEO of Computech Industries, one of Quantum Edge's biggest competitors. Computech had been working on quantum computing for years, but had struggled with the same stability problems that Quantum Edge had solved. When Min-ho's algorithm was published, Computech fell behind overnight. Their investors were angry. Their stock price dropped. Marcus needed to catch up quickly. The first approach was subtle. Min-ho received an email from a Computech recruiter. They wanted to talk about opportunities. The salary they mentioned was 3 times what he currently made. Min-ho deleted the email without responding. Then Marcus reached out personally. He called Min-ho's office. "Professor Park, I've been following your work. It's impressive. I'd love to discuss how someone with your talents could make an even bigger impact at Computech." "I'm happy where I am," Min-ho said. "I understand loyalty. I respect it. But let me ask you something. Are you being compensated fairly for your contributions? Quantum Edge's valuation went up $8 billion after your breakthrough. How much of that did you see?" The question bothered Min-ho more than he wanted to admit. He had received a raise and a bonus. But Marcus was right. The company's value had exploded, and Min-ho's compensation, while good, was a tiny fraction of that increase. "Money isn't everything," Min-ho said. "Of course not. But security is important. You've been homeless. You know how quickly things can fall apart. Wouldn't it be nice to have real financial security? The kind of money that means you never have to worry again?" "I need to go," Min-ho said and hung up. But the seed was planted. That night, Min-ho lay awake thinking. Marcus was right about the money. Min-ho had helped create something worth billions, but he was still living in a small apartment and worrying about his savings account. Was he being taken advantage of? He talked to Ji-won the next day. "I got a call from Marcus Webb. He offered me a job at Computech." Ji-won's face became serious. "Marcus is smart and ruthless. What did he offer?" Min-ho named the salary. Ji-won whistled low. "That's a lot of money. Are you interested?" "No, maybe, I don't know." Min-ho rubbed his face. "He made me think about things, about whether I'm being paid fairly for what I've contributed." "You're absolutely right to think about it," Ji-won said. "Let me be honest with you. When you started, I didn't know how valuable you would be. I gave you a standard senior consultant salary, but you've exceeded every expectation. Let me talk to the board. We can renegotiate your compensation. You've earned it. I don't want to seem greedy. It's not greedy to want fair compensation for fair work. Marcus is right about one thing. You helped make this company much more valuable. You should benefit from that." The conversation made Min-ho feel better, but it also made him uncomfortable. He had never been good at negotiating for himself. He had always focused on the work, assuming the rewards would follow. But maybe that was naive. A week later, Marcus Webb called again. This time his tone was different, harder. "Professor Park, I wanted to give you a courtesy warning. We've been doing some research into your algorithm. We believe it bears significant similarity to work you did while employed at UC Berkeley. Work that would be the property of the university, not yours to give to Quantum Edge. Minho felt cold wash over him. That's not true. I developed this algorithm entirely at Quantum Edge. You can ask anyone on the team. Can I? Or did you come to Quantum Edge with ideas you developed earlier? Maybe even wrote down before you left Berkeley. Ideas that legally belong to the university? Why are you doing this? I'm not doing anything. I'm simply pointing out potential legal issues. Of course, if you were to join Computech, we could work together to resolve these concerns quietly. No lawsuits. No public scandal. Just two professionals finding a mutually beneficial solution. Minho realized what was happening. This was not a job offer. This was blackmail. Marcus was going to claim Minho stole intellectual property unless he left Quantum Edge and brought his knowledge to Computech. You can't prove any of this because it's not true, Minho said. Proof is interesting. In court, perception often matters more than truth. Imagine the headlines. Homeless man accused of stealing research. The story writes itself, doesn't it? Your credibility would be destroyed even if you're eventually cleared. Marcus hung up. Minho sat frozen at his desk. His hands were shaking. Everything he had built was suddenly at risk. Even false accusations could ruin him. The public would believe the worst. Former homeless person steals intellectual property. It fit too many negative stereotypes. He went immediately to Jiwon and explained everything. Jiwon's face grew dark with anger. Marcus is playing dirty. This is his way of trying to get our technology. If he can't hire you, he'll try to discredit you and claim your work. Can he really do this? He can try. We need lawyers. Good ones. Jiwon picked up his phone. I'm calling our legal team right now. The next days were a nightmare. Computech filed a lawsuit claiming that Minho's algorithm was based on research he had conducted while at Berkeley, and therefore belonged to the university, not to Quantum Edge. They produced documents that appeared to be old research notes from Minho's time as a professor. The notes contained equations similar to his algorithm. The problem was that Minho could not remember if he had worked on these ideas back then. He had written hundreds of pages of notes during his years at Berkeley. Some might have touched on similar concepts. Depression and trauma had made his memories of that time fuzzy. I don't remember writing these notes, Minho told Jennifer Park, the lawyer Jiwon had hired. But I can't swear I didn't. I was working on many related problems back then. Jennifer studied the documents carefully. These don't look quite right to me. The formatting is modern. The paper doesn't look 7 or 8 years old. I think they're forgeries. Can you prove that? I'm going to try. But we need evidence. Do you have any of your actual notes from Berkeley? No, I lost everything when I became homeless. Everything I owned fit in a backpack. The lawsuit became public. The media picked up the story immediately. The narrative was irresistible. Homeless man turned researcher accused of theft. Some articles were fair and waited for evidence. Others assumed guilt. The comment sections were brutal. I knew something was fishy about his story. Homeless people don't suddenly become geniuses. He obviously stole the work. Quantum Edge should have done better background checks. Minho stopped reading the news, stopped checking social media. But he could feel people looking at him differently at work. Some were supportive. Dr. Martinez and most of the team stood by him firmly, but others seemed uncertain. Maybe he really had stolen the work. Maybe his whole story was a lie. The stress triggered old trauma. Minho started having panic attacks again. He could not sleep. He could not eat. He saw Dr. Kim 3 times a week instead of twice a month. I worked so hard to build this life, Minho said during one session, tears running down his face. And now it's being taken away by lies. How is that fair? It's not fair, Dr. Kim said gently. But fair and reality are different things. Right now we need to focus on getting you through this. You've survived worse than Marcus Webb. Have I? This feels worse than the street. At least there, nobody expected anything from me. Nobody watched me fail. You're not failing. You're being attacked. Those are different things. His students at Berkeley heard about the lawsuit. Some looked at him with suspicion now. Others with pity. Both reactions made him feel terrible. One day after class, a student approached him. Professor Park, I don't believe what they're saying about you. I think you're being set up. Thank you, Minho said quietly. My father is a lawyer. He said these kinds of lawsuits are often about business, not truth. He said companies use them to hurt competitors. Your father is smart. He also said that forged documents aren't as hard to detect as people think. The truth usually comes out. Minho wanted to believe that, but he was losing hope. Jennifer Park was working hard, but Computech had resources and time. They could drag this out for years. Even if Minho won eventually, his reputation would be destroyed. Nobody would trust him again. Then Jennifer called with news. I sent the documents to a forensic analyst, someone who specializes in detecting forgeries. He found something interesting. What? The paper is wrong. It's modern paper, not paper from 7 or 8 years ago. The type used in printers changed about 5 years ago. This paper was made recently, not when you were at Berkeley. Minho felt hope rising. So they're forgeries? It's strong evidence. But we need more. Can you think of anyone from Berkeley who might have access to your old office or files? Minho thought hard. My office was cleaned out after I stopped coming to work. But the department would have kept some files. Student records, published papers, maybe other documents. Who would have access? Any faculty member or administrator. The department secretary, maybe some graduate students who worked in the office. Jennifer made notes. I'll investigate. Someone at Berkeley helped Marcus create these forgeries. If we can find out who, we can prove this was deliberate fraud. Over the next week, Jennifer worked with a private investigator. They discovered that a graduate student at Berkeley had been hired by Computech as a consultant 6 months earlier. This student had access to the department files. He had been seen copying documents from old file cabinets. This is it, Jennifer said. This student provided Computech with templates. Old documents in your handwriting. They used those to create forgeries that looked authentic. Can you prove it? I'm building the case. We'll need depositions, testimony. It's going to take time. But yes, I think we can prove it. Minho felt relief flooding through him, but also anger. Marcus Webb had tried to destroy him, had tried to take away everything he had rebuilt, all because he wanted access to quantum computing technology he could not develop himself. The counterattack came swiftly. Jennifer filed motions showing the evidence of forgery. She demanded depositions from the Berkeley graduate student and from Marcus himself. Computech's lawyers tried to delay and deflect, but the evidence was solid. The graduate student, facing potential criminal charges, agreed to testify. He admitted everything. Marcus had paid him $50,000 to provide old documents and to create forgeries that looked like Minho's work. The plan was to claim Minho had stolen intellectual property, forcing him to either join Computech or have his career destroyed. When this became public, the media narrative shifted immediately. Now Marcus was the villain. Tech CEO attempts to frame rival researcher. Computech scandal, forged documents used in lawsuit. Marcus Webb accused of corporate fraud. The lawsuit collapsed. Computech withdrew their complaint and issued a public apology. Marcus Webb resigned as CEO under pressure from his board. The graduate student faced criminal charges. Justice, it seemed, had been served, but Minho did not feel victorious. He felt exhausted, traumatized. The experience had reopened old wounds, had reminded him how quickly everything could be taken away, how vulnerable he still was. Jiwon found him sitting alone in his office late one night. How are you holding up? I don't know. I won, but I don't feel like I won. I feel tired. You went through hell. Give yourself time to recover. I keep thinking about how close it came. If Jennifer hadn't found that evidence, if that student hadn't confessed, I could have lost everything. My job, my reputation, my future. But you didn't. You stood up to a bully and you won. This time. What about next time? What if someone else tries to destroy me? Jiwon sat down across from him. Minho, there's always risk. Always someone who might attack you. But you can't live in fear of what might happen. You have to focus on what is happening. And right now you're vindicated. You're respected. You're doing important work. I want to do more, Minho said suddenly. I want to make sure other people don't go through what I went through. Both the homelessness and the attacks. I want to help people who are vulnerable, who don't have anyone fighting for them. What are you thinking? A foundation. Something that helps homeless people who have skills and education get back into society. Job training, housing assistance, legal support. All the things I needed but didn't have. Jiwon smiled. That sounds like something Soo-jin would have wanted. Minho felt tears in his eyes at the mention of his wife's name. Yes, she always said we should use our abilities to help others. I haven't done that yet. I've just been focused on rebuilding my own life. There's nothing wrong with that. You had to save yourself before you could save anyone else. But now you're stable. Now you can reach back and help others up. That night, Minho went home and started making plans. He calculated how much money he had saved. It was substantial now, after a year of good salary and bonuses. He researched existing programs that helped homeless individuals. He thought about what had worked for him and what could work for others. He would call it the Sujin Foundation. It would focus on people who had education and skills but had fallen through the cracks. People like he had been. Invisible but talented, forgotten but capable. The lawsuit had tried to destroy him. Instead, it had clarified what mattered. Not just his own success, not just his own security, but using that success and security to create opportunities for others. Minho pulled out a photo of Sujin that he kept in his wallet. He had carried it through 3 years on the street, through hotel rooms and apartments, through good days and terrible ones. I'm going to do something that matters, he told the photograph. I promise. For the first time since the lawsuit began, Minho felt peace. Not just relief that it was over, but purpose. A reason to keep going that was bigger than himself. Tomorrow he would start working on the foundation. Tonight he would finally sleep without fear. 18 months after Minho wrote those chalk equations on the glass wall, he stood in that exact spot again. But everything was different now. He wore a good suit. He had a purpose. And he was not alone. Next to him stood Jiwan, Dr. Martinez, Officer Rodriguez, and a dozen other people who had become important in his new life. They were here for the official opening of the Sujin Foundation's first program site, a community center just 2 blocks from where Minho used to sleep. Thank you all for coming, Minho said to the small crowd gathered on the sidewalk. His voice was stronger now, confident. This location is important to me. I spent many nights sleeping right here, invisible to the people walking past. Nobody saw me. Nobody knew what I was capable of. I was just another homeless person. He pointed to the glass wall. One night I saw equations written on this wall. I corrected them. That single decision changed my life. Someone saw my potential. Someone gave me a chance. Today we're here to give other people that same chance. The Sujin Foundation had taken 6 months to set up properly. Minho had used his own money to start it, but Jiwan and several other wealthy individuals had contributed. The foundation's mission was simple: help homeless individuals with education and skills get back into the workforce. They offered several programs: job training, resume building, interview preparation. But the most important program was called Second Chance. It connected homeless individuals with companies willing to give them opportunities. Real jobs, real salaries, real futures. We're not a charity, Minho explained to the crowd. We're not giving handouts. We're giving opportunities to people who have the ability to succeed, but lack the support to do so. We believe that talent exists everywhere, but opportunity does not. The first 3 people to go through the program were standing nearby. Sarah had been a graphic designer before losing her job and apartment. Now she worked at a marketing agency. Michael had been an accountant. Now he worked for a financial services company. James had been a software developer. Now he worked at a tech startup. All 3 had been homeless. All 3 had skills. All 3 had needed someone to believe in them. The foundation had provided housing assistance, helped them get clean clothes and phones, connected them with employers who were willing to look past their circumstances. These 3 people represent what's possible, Minho said. They didn't need someone to feel sorry for them. They needed someone to see their potential. That's what we do here. After the speeches, Minho walked through the community center. It had computers where people could work on resumes and job applications, a clothing closet with professional clothes for interviews, private rooms where people could take phone calls or video interviews, a kitchen where volunteers provided meals, showers and laundry facilities. Everything Minho had wished he'd had when he was on the street. Officer Rodriguez walked beside him. This is amazing, Minho. You've created something really special. You helped, Minho said. You were always kind to me when I slept outside the building. You never treated me like I was invisible. I just treated you like a person. Everyone deserves that. Not everyone sees it that way. But you did. I won't forget it. Over the following months, the foundation grew. More people came through the programs. More companies partnered with them. More success stories emerged. Local news covered the foundation. National news picked up some of the stories. The model started being copied in other cities. But Minho's favorite part was the tutoring program. Every Saturday, he went to the community center and offered free mathematics tutoring to anyone who wanted it. Some came to learn. Others came just to be around someone who understood where they were. One Saturday, a young woman approached him nervously. She was thin and tired-looking. Her clothes were worn. She kept glancing at the door like she might run at any moment. "Are you Professor Park?" she asked in Korean. Minho switched to Korean. "Yes, what's your name?" "Hana, I saw you teaching. I wanted to ask something, but I'm not sure I should." "You can ask me anything." Hana pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. On it were mathematics equations. "I found this in a library book. I've been trying to solve it, but I'm stuck. I thought maybe you could help." Minho looked at the equations. They were advanced, calculus and beyond. "Where did you study mathematics?" "Seoul National University. I was in my last year when my family had problems. I had to drop out. I came to America to try to make money, but things didn't work out. I've been on the street for 8 months now." Minho felt like he was looking at himself from 2 years ago. Same university, same love of mathematics, same circumstances that had destroyed a promising future. "Sit down," he said gently. "Let's work through this problem together." They spent 2 hours on the mathematics. Hana was brilliant. She saw patterns quickly. She asked smart questions. Her education had been interrupted, but her ability was still there. "Why mathematics?" Minho asked when they finished. "If you could do anything, would you want to work in this field?" "It's all I've ever wanted. But it's impossible now. Look at me. No degree, no home, no connections. Who would hire someone like me?" "Someone hired me, and I was in exactly your position." He told her his story. Hana listened with wide eyes. When he finished, she was crying. "You really did it? You really went from the street to this?" "I really did. And you can too. The foundation can help you. We have programs for job training, housing assistance. But more than that, we have connections with companies looking for talented people. Quantum Edge is always looking for researchers. Would you be interested?" Hana looked at him like he had offered her the world. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. Come back Monday. We'll get you started. Clean clothes, a place to stay, help with your resume, an introduction to the research team. The rest will be up to you." That Monday, Hana came back. Minho personally took her to Quantum Edge. He introduced her to Dr. Martinez the same way Ji-won had introduced him. "This is Hana. She studied mathematics at Seoul National University. She's brilliant. She's had some difficult circumstances, but she's ready to work. Can we give her a chance?" Dr. Martinez studied Hana for a moment. Then she smiled. "If Minho believes in you, that's good enough for me. Let's see what you can do." Watching Hana start her journey, Minho felt something profound. The circle was complete. He had been lifted up. Now he was lifting others. The pain of his past was becoming the purpose of his present. At Berkeley, his classes were now some of the most popular in the mathematics department. Students loved his teaching style, but more than that, they loved his honesty. He talked about failure, about depression, about the reality that life could fall apart suddenly and completely. "Mathematics is pure," he told his students, "but life is messy. You will all face challenges. Some of you will fail. Some of you will struggle with mental health. Some of you will question if you belong in this field. When that happens, remember that struggle doesn't mean you lack ability. It means you're human." His research continued to break new ground. He published paper after paper on quantum computing. He was invited to speak at conferences worldwide. Universities tried to recruit him with prestigious endowed chairs. But Minho stayed at Quantum Edge in Berkeley. This was where he belonged. Ji-won had become more than a boss. He was a true friend. They met regularly for coffee and talked about everything. Business, life, philosophy, dreams. "You saved my life," Minho said one evening. "I think about that constantly. Where I would be if you hadn't taken a chance on me." "You saved mine too," Ji-won replied. "I was burning out, losing my passion, about to give up on the company I'd built. Then you showed me that brilliance can come from anywhere, that someone's circumstances don't define their potential. You reminded me why I started this company. We saved each other then. Maybe that's how it works. We're all just people trying to make it through." Sometimes we lift each other up. Sometimes we get lifted. The important thing is not letting anyone stay down when we have the power to help. 1 year after opening, the Sujin Foundation had helped over 50 people find employment, 20 of them in technical fields like programming and engineering, 30 in other professional roles. All of them had been homeless. All of them had skills the world had overlooked. Now they were contributing members of society again. The foundation's success attracted attention from other organizations. Cities asked for help replicating the model. Companies asked to partner. Donors offered money to expand. What had started as Minho's personal mission was becoming a movement, but Minho never forgot where he came from. He still carried chalk in his pocket, still walked past the glass wall where everything changed, still remembered the cold nights and the feeling of being invisible. One evening he was working late at the foundation's office when someone knocked on the door. It was Hannah. She had been working at Quantum Edge for 6 months now. "Professor, do you have a moment?" "Of course." "Come in." Hannah sat down. She looked different now, healthier, more confident. She had an apartment, clean clothes, a salary, but more importantly, she had hope in her eyes. "I wanted to tell you something. I've been working on a problem. A variation of your stability algorithm. I think I found a way to improve it." She showed him her work. Minho read through the equations carefully. His heart beat faster as he saw what she had done. It was elegant, innovative, correct. "Hannah, this is excellent. This could increase stability by another 15%. "Really? I wasn't sure if it was worth showing you." "It's absolutely worth it. We need to test this. If it works, you should publish this. Your name as lead author. But you're the one who developed the original algorithm, and you're the one who improved it. That's how science works. We build on each other's ideas. You deserve credit for your contribution." Hannah's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. For everything. For seeing me. For believing in me. For giving me a chance to use my mind again. You did the hard part. You kept your skills sharp even when you had no opportunity to use them. You stayed ready. That's what made the difference." After Hannah left, Minho sat alone in his office. He thought about the journey from that cold night on the street to this moment. About how one decision, one piece of chalk, one moment of courage had changed everything. But more than that, he thought about how his story was now helping others write their own stories. Hannah would succeed. Others would follow. The foundation would keep growing. The cycle would continue. He pulled out the photograph of Sujin that he still carried. Her smile was as warm as he remembered. Her eyes as kind. "I did it," he whispered to the photo. "I built something that matters. Something that helps people. Something that makes a difference." He imagined her reply. She would tell him she was proud. She would tell him this was always who he was meant to be. Not just a mathematician, but someone who used his gifts to lift others up. The next Saturday, Minho went back to the glass wall for his tutoring session. A small crowd had gathered. Some were homeless individuals looking for help. Others were volunteers. A few were former program participants who came back to give back. Minho pulled out his chalk. He wrote an equation on the glass. Not a quantum computing equation this time. Something simpler, more philosophical. Potential minus opportunity equals 0, he wrote. But potential plus opportunity equals infinite possibility. He turned to the group. This is what we believe. Everyone has potential. But potential alone isn't enough. You need opportunity. You need someone to open a door. You need a chance to show what you can do. He looked around at the faces watching him, some skeptical, some hopeful, all of them where he had been. I'm here to tell you that one moment can change everything. One decision. One chance. One person who sees you and believes in you. That's all it takes. But you have to be ready. You have to keep your mind sharp and your skills active. Because when the opportunity comes, you need to be able to grab it with both hands. A man in the back raised his hand. He was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and worn clothes. I used to be an engineer. Lost my job 5 years ago. Can't seem to get back in. I'm too old. Too long out of the field. Nobody will hire me. How are your engineering skills? Rusty, but still there. I work problems in my head to keep sharp. Good. Come see me after this. Let's talk about what you can do and what you need. Maybe we can find something. The man's eyes lit up with hope. Minho recognized that look. It was the same look he must have had when Jiwon first offered him a chance. After the tutoring session, Minho walked slowly along the street. The city lights were bright. People hurried past, going home to their lives. But Minho noticed the others, the ones sitting in doorways, the ones with blankets and backpacks, the invisible ones. He made a promise to himself. As long as he had the ability to help, he would. As long as he had resources, he would share them. As long as he had influence, he would use it to open doors for people who deserved chances. This was his purpose. Not just the mathematics, though he loved that. Not just the teaching, though that was rewarding. But this, helping people who were where he used to be, being the person for them that Jiwon had been for him. Minho stopped at the exact spot where his cardboard used to be. He stood there for a moment, remembering the cold, the hunger, the fear, the loneliness, but also the moment when everything changed, the moment he chose to reach out with his chalk instead of staying invisible. "Thank you," he whispered to the night, to Jiwon, to Sujin, to the universe that had given him a second chance. "Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible." Then he turned and walked toward the bus stop. Tomorrow he would teach his class at Berkeley. He would work on quantum computing research at Quantum Edge. He would help more people through the foundation, but tonight he would go home. To his apartment with its soft bed and warm shower. To his life that felt solid and real. To his future that held infinite possibility. Because that's what happens when potential meets opportunity. When someone is seen instead of overlooked. When talent is recognized instead of wasted. One piece of chalk. One equation. One moment of courage. That's all it took to change everything. And now Minho was making sure that others got their moments too. One person at a time, one chance at a time. One life at a time, the circle was complete. The homeless man who corrected the billionaire's equation had become the person who helped others correct their own life equations. And in doing so, he had found not just success, but meaning. As the bus pulled away from the curb, Minho looked back one last time at the glass wall. In the streetlight, he could still see faint chalk marks, equations that had started everything, mathematics that had opened a door. He smiled. Tomorrow, someone else would stand at that wall. Someone else would see an opportunity and take it. Someone else would begin their journey from invisible to visible. And Minho would be there to help them, just as he had been helped, just as Sujin would have wanted. The bus moved through the city, carrying Minho toward home. Toward tomorrow. Toward all the possibilities that remained. Not just for him, but for everyone who needed someone to believe in them. One equation. One chance. Infinite possibility. That was the mathematics of hope, and Minho Park had become its greatest teacher.